good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else joining us for the first time in 2024. It's so great to be back with you here live on VirtualRacing.Network. Of course, it's Tuesday night, and you know what that means. It's time for the BRB Buttkicker Cup Series. That's right, it's some of iRacing's absolute premier NASCAR next-gen machines. They're out there right now qualifying. Tonight, it is the Dover Motor Speedway, the Monster Mile as it's known. 45 laps in the first stage, 90 in the second, 175 total laps overall. Hello again, everybody. I'm Trevor Greenfield. It's so great to be back broadcasting again, and what a great place to bring you back to, and a great championship is underway here as we are now in round number 5 for the K1 Speed 175. A lot more information coming up about the K1 Speed and what that's all about to go-kart racing around yourself somewhere in this world. But tonight, unfortunately, Christian Snyder, who's usually with me, is out of commission. He's having some pains and not able to make it in, but fortunately, we do have a great backup. It's going to be Alex Axman, who's joining us live here tonight. And Alex, it's always great to have you. NASCAR racing here at the Dover Motor Speedway. What do you know about Dover? What's it like to do these short tracks in these types of machines?
Well, and appreciate you having me, Trevor. Dover is quite an interesting one. The short tracks can always be a nightmare for some drivers. Typically, the corners are going to have a lot harder banks, and there's going to be some slick spots that are going to come up for drivers. Very rarely do you see a full green race on Dover. It can be a definitely hard one, but I think these drivers have got the skill to make one hell of a show here tonight, and the weather's looking good. It's looking like we're got about 60 or 76, weather out here. We do have some humidity, so that track surface might be a little tricky for these drivers. But other than that, it's looking like a good day, and I'm excited to get going here and see some action.
Absolutely cool track, always to race on. As you see, Ronnie Norman putting in his qualifying time there just off of our provisional pole sitter, Gavin Rogers. Stephen Borbell there in third place. Adam Buzzio in fourth. And Jared Hughes sitting in that fifth spot. What a cool place to come back to, because, this is kind of a survivor track. One of those tracks where you got to get in the groove, and then also the pit in and pit out here are treacherous. You got to watch out for those pit ins. Let's go ahead and ride around here. Let's see, we're on board with Christopher Campbell. He tries to get in his qualifying time. Brings it up there on the front straightaway across the start-finish stripe. You'll notice you're going to have to really get down and dig into that banking through turns 1 and 2. Up onto it there. Make sure that we can hear everybody. But there we go. Get the iRacing audio just where we want it. And unfortunately, we see the times dip off there because that is the end of qualifying. So Christopher Campbell getting in a little late there and unable to get in a time. And so let's go ahead and actually take a look at the championship order as they sit right now here. I believe we'll get that to show up here in just a moment. But the official standings coming up at you here. There we go. Ronnie Norman atop the leaderboard with multiple wins so far this season. He's been red hot coming over from the NORA Cup Series and able to capitalize on some great seasons of racing over in NORA. Right now sitting in that top spot. In second spot is Gavin Rogers. Third, Adam Buzzio. Fourth, Bill Hales 5th, Alexander Light in this championship. And you see everybody who is chasing from 11th on back. Some really great names there in Eric Hawk and Gregory Shaw, Zachary King. Number of really talented racers waiting to get in. And so with that, why don't we go ahead and we'll take a look at tonight's starting grid for the K1 Speed 175. And on pole position will be Gavin Rogers, who's right there in that championship hunt. Starting alongside him will, of course, be Ronnie Norman. Ronnie looking to capitalize once again on such a strong start for this season. Congratulations to him on all of his success so far, but will it mean anything as we get to the end of this season? He's got to keep that momentum going. Stephen Borbell is going to be starting on that second row, and alongside him, his teammate at Next Level Motorsports, making a trifecta in the top four, Adam Buzzio, and of course, the head honcho here in the BRB Buttkicker Cup Series. Jared Hughes going to be starting on that third row. Next to him, Carl Pooler. Brendan Maddox alongside of Cameron Stearns. Matthew Porter next to Evan Patinko, Patrick Hernandez, and Zachary King. And completing the field is going to be Matthew Erickson, Richard Wolsifer, Dustin Stallings, and Christopher Campbell. That is your starting grid for tonight's race. And really, the only thing to really talk about here is the fact that you'll see a lot of drivers out there with the Bill Hales sticker on board, and that is because Bill Hales is not able to make tonight's race. Well, Gavin Rogers is on it very early as the green flag is out here, and he takes an early lead with Ronnie Norman stepping into second. Third place there is Stephen Borbell, Adam Buzzio, and Jared Hughes fighting it out just behind for position. And Alex, we are already underway with this one. It's hot and heavy here for that fourth spot between Buzzio and Hughes.
Yeah, these drivers are going to have to put in a lot of work, and we've seen quite a little bit of a rivalry between Rogers and Norman. These drivers kind of have it out for each other, so it'll be definitely interesting to see what that pack does in the front as Norman's making a move on the outside. But Norman is going to be in a tough spot with the Next Level team all in the front there, so them guys are probably going to have some moves working together, and it's definitely going to be a very interesting chase for Norman up front, and I'm excited. These drivers are going to have to put in one heck of a show here tonight, for sure.
Yeah, it's always about finding where the car wants to settle in and what you can do the best here early going. Make sure that you save enough tires for the end of the race. So much crucial stuff that you got to do, but these drivers very experienced, and just like that, Ronnie Norman taking over the top spot just as we were focused on another battle there. So Ronnie Norman taking over that top spot from Gavin Rogers. And Gavin now starting to fall backwards a little bit as perhaps Norman deciding to lay down some quick laps early on. He's gotten in trouble for this before, where he used up all of his tires a little bit early on and had to drift backwards. But again, perhaps expecting some yellow flags here that might save the day in this first stage.
Right, absolutely. And these short track races too, they can be really hard on tires. You're pushing the car a lot harder than what you would do in, say, a super speedway. You're just running it to the ragged edge because there's not a lot of track to go around. You're in a turn, it feels like. So, Norman taking that jump out early, he's going to be pushing the car extremely hard. And then you've got the Next Level team right here kind of sticking together. I imagine these guys are probably going to take their time, or maybe not. Borbell's looking like he's making a move here, and or they might be switching up positions. It might be as well.
Yes, indeed. Borbell taking advantage of, again, a little bit of an early pace for him as he jumps now into that second spot. And you can see a number of drivers making some more moves. Here's Brendan Maddox. He's up a couple of spots already, right now sitting in that 5th spot. Carl Pooler back here in 6th place, and 7th place is now Adam Buzzio. He's dropped 3 spots from where he started. So a lot of movement early on. Some drivers deciding they want to run up front. Obviously, Ronnie Norman kind of setting sail here out front as we're now on lap number 10, but he's already opened up well over a second lead over the rest of the field. And you look back there from the Ronnie Norman machine, he's got a half a straightaway, even more than a half a straightaway's lead right now on these drivers. Pretty good stuff early on for him. And still some more side-by-side action as we don't quite have this one figured out. Jared Hughes getting caught up here, and here comes Adam Buzzio now getting by Jared Hughes. So Hughes starting to drift backwards. He had that early pace. Now he is starting to fall back.
Yeah, it looks like we're starting to see, so it seems like that high side, the driver to kind of wanting to stay out of that and stay on the low line, and that might switch up to here too. As they start coming around. That high line right now does not seem to be the spot to be, and that might change as the track heats up as well. But we're going to see a lot of shuffling in the short tracks. There's a lot of changing, and it takes a lot of driver skill to keep them settled, and as soon as that car unsettles, you'll be on the move for sure.
Certainly something to keep an eye on as these drivers start to find their way around Dover. Let's go ahead and jump on board now. This is with Jared Hughes. He's fallen back a couple of spots from where he started here in the early going of the K1 speed 175. You can see he's got a front windshield filled with Adam Buzzio at the moment, but just behind him too, only a half a second back, is Patrick Hernandez. And you know, as we look on board here, Alex, there you can see, looks like Pooler moving down to the inside, and Buzzio going to try to take advantage on the high side. Go back to the picture with these two battling here. This is, again, this is so much action here. This is anything but nose to tail or single file racing. These drivers really going out there and challenging each other early on to see where they slot in performance-wise with each other. And right now it looks like Carl Pooler going to settle back into where he started in that 6th spot. But this is quite a train that's developing here, coming back from Gavin Rogers, who's sitting in that 3rd spot. Of course, he qualified up on the pole and now drifted back quite a long ways from that front group. Brendan Maddox right behind Adam Buzzio there. Looks like kind of some of these drivers maybe getting a little held up here as we get to the center part of this first stage.
Yeah, and I just was getting ready to say that. It looks like some of the drivers, Maddox has made a couple moves already. He's already up 3 spots, and he is hot on the tail of Rogers, that's for sure. I think he's going to try to make a move at some point, and there he goes, taking that high line. And we've seen a couple drivers come around the high line now, and it seems to be somewhat working. Oh, he might have gotten a little loose. He's still holding it there, and he's going to have the run. As you're watching, these cars are coming out of these high sides, and they're shuffling the rear ends, which tells me that high side is a lot looser than what I think these drivers are displaying right now. But a lot of these drivers are just high-class racers for sure. The skill that's going on right here, and the fact that we are getting ready to approach 20 laps clean is impressive so far, at least based on my track record on this track. Has never been good.
Dover is just such a wild one, and to be able to handle this side-by-side racing here and there's an incident back here. I believe that is Patrick Hernandez, who gets clipped and put up in the wall there. You see pieces of the machine coming off. He stays up close to that wall there, and he's going to start to drift down the track. So
we're going to stay green, looks like.
Indeed it does, but poor Patrick Hernandez is now going to move to the back of the field, and he's going to have to limp into the pits as Ronnie Norman is making his way around. He's going to lap Patrick Hernandez here in just a moment. And there he goes by on the track. It looks like Hernandez will make it into the pits. Once again, great to have everybody joining us live here on VirtualRacing.Network, your home for the BRB Buttkicker Cup Series. And of course, tonight, this is the K1 Speed 175. Let us know if you've ever raced at K1 Speed. Myself, I have once upon a time, quite a long time ago. But it's been pretty cool to see what they've developed since then, and you get a chance to see a video here pretty soon at our commercial break of just all of what's in store for you if you head out to K1 Speed here. But where the action is on the track, and it looks like Stephen Borbell is starting to reel in Ronnie Norman right now. This is kind of what I thought could happen, and now you see Buzzio get back by Brendan Maddox for that third spot back here. So Buzzio now a full 4.4 seconds off of Ronnie Norman, but Norman losing that initial gap that he had. It's come down a couple of tenths up there. Perhaps he did use up maybe a little bit too much of those tires in the very first part of this stint.
And he might have. I mean, he was running pretty heavy right out of the gate. And we've seen Norman do that again and again. Where he comes out really hot and then he kind of slows back down and kind of settles the tires back off. And he seems to really like his spacing, but his spacing is closing on a very rapid rate here. And it looks like Gavin Rogers is going to be moving up here as well.
Yeah,
we're watching him get around Maddox.
Gavin does get that spot away from Maddox, but as you said, that gap is coming down between Norman and Borbell, now down to just under 9/10 of a second. So it's come down about 3 to 4 tenths in the last several laps. And we'll keep an eye on that gap. But in the meantime, it's Brendan Maddox, who had charged really hard, got up into the top 3, and then now has started to drift backwards. Of course, he's still up 2 spots from where he started. And we see Richard Wolsifer up 5 spots. I know he possibly was part of that Patrick Hernandez issue that happened earlier, and we're going to see if we can dig up the replay on that one. Here we go. We take a look at your replay, sponsored by Sundance Pizza, and we'll take a look at how this all went down here. Patrick Hernandez kind of in the middle of this one, as you can see, and it looks like he just gets loose, and then it is I believe Campbell or Patinko who ends up getting into him, and that is what sent him up into the wall. Looked like a bit of net code there, and unfortunately that really hurt Patrick Hernandez's night, because hey, another problem with running on these short tracks is if you have to pit, Alex, I mean, that could be 1 or 2 laps lost, and right now it's at least 1 lap down. Make that 2 laps down for Hernandez. That is just a really rough way to start your night.
It really is, and it does not take long to get behind the curve on the short tracks because the cars are just turning out laps so fast. It feels like we just started and we're already 31 laps in here as Norman crosses the line, but it doesn't take much. But what that does mean is that cautions are going to be significantly important, and tires are going to be a huge part. As the tires start wearing down, those cars start getting slick. It's going to definitely be an interesting ordeal to see what moves are going to be the right move. And speaking of making moves, Borbell is closing the gap a little bit more. We're still at 1.83, so just shy of a second behind, but he's still holding that gap there, and he's slowly reeling him in, it seems like. Maybe Norman's getting a little hot on the tires, but we'll have to see what happens here between these two.
Yeah, it's really hovering right there, about 9/10 of a second, so perhaps Norman has found the equalization point on these tires as we take a look on board with Stephen Borbell, how it looks coming through these corners. Dover, one of those tracks where the car does want to move around. You really have to get the line just perfect through the corners each and every time. And if your inputs are off just a little bit, that can be the difference between gaining or losing a tenth on the entire lap. So as you can see, Borbell, he loses a little bit and then he gains a little bit, but it seems to keep hovering right there around 9/10 of a second. And again, we'll jump up to Ronnie Norman's camera. And you see on board with him exactly what he's going to see. Why don't we sit behind the wheel with Ronnie Norman, see what it's like to lead one of these BRB Buttkicker Cup races in stage number 1. We've seen a lot of movement out of these hands. No, look how smooth that hand input is. I know when we have Vincent Arthur joining us in the booth, he's a multiple race winning driver, almost won the championship over in Nora. That's one of the first things that he notices is when it's smooth on those inputs, just a little bit of correction coming off the corner. Ronnie Norman having a solid race thus far here at Dover Motor Speedway, and Norman looks like he's going to be coming up on Matthew Erickson for the Full Send eSports team, his teammate. Going to be possibly putting him a lap down here in just a moment. And never what you want to do, be putting your teammate a lap down, but Erickson perhaps not quite getting on with Dover as well as he might have wanted. Taking a look over in our YouTube chat room, we've got Ashley Pooler joining us. Welcome to the broadcast, saying go Carl Pooler, number 71. There he is, front and center on your screen with that solid paint scheme. Therefore, Limitless Esports. And right now, Carl sitting just 2 spots shy of where he began the race in 6th place. He's currently sitting in that 8th spot. But hey, sometimes in these early stages, just no incidents is good news. And staying out of trouble this early on, that's what you want to do. You want to be there at the end, or perhaps make some strategy calls for that second stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is there's a lot of laps to go. So
there are a lot of races too, but definitely a lot of laps there.
Yeah, definitely a lot of laps, and there's nothing wrong with hanging in the middle of the pack and just having your own space, finding your groove. And you're starting to see it more and more as we return some more laps. You're watching these cars come out of these corners, and you're watching these cars do a little shuffle as that suspension unloads coming out of the high side. Like when we were watching there with Ronnie Norman, you're watching him adjust the wheel to the right, and that's because that suspension's unloading. So as that continues to go on, those inputs are going to be very, very key for these drivers coming out of these turns and keeping them out of the wall as they try to wiggle their way up there.
And we are watching a little bit of wiggling action coming from Richard Wolsifer, who's drifted up the track a little bit. That's given the opportunity to Christopher Campbell, who right now is in 10th. He's taking a look under Richard Wolsifer for that 9th spot. And then you see Dustin Stallings just behind, one of the newcomers to the series. And you see Wolsifer really starting to struggle on those tires. Big wiggle coming off the corner, and like I said, that's going to cost him now 2 spots, as here comes Dustin Stallings on by on that low side. And this is the point right now where everyone's tires are really starting to feel it. Ronnie Norman, just 2 more laps though to be able to win this stage, but it looks like this is not his teammate. This is Gavin Rogers who's just behind him. This gap has closed. Gavin now making a late stage lunge to try to get back into the top spot before we go to the stage break. Gavin going to look on the high side. Ronnie Norman stays low on the track. Is it going to be good enough to hold off Gavin Rogers? Rogers ekes ahead. He's going to hold the position there at the start of this lap. They've got to get to the completion of the lap. Will Ronnie be able to double back? I don't think so. Alex, this was some great late strategy in this stage for Gavin Rogers, who held on to his equipment, and he's going to go ahead and take the stage victory here in the first stage of the K1 Speed 175.
Yeah, and we'd seen, and it looked like Rogers was just hanging back. during this first stage. We'd seen him kind of sitting back here, and maybe he was saving tires. And as soon as he got the point and he says, "Okay, we got to hammer down and go," that's exactly what he did. He closed that gap and got around Norman and definitely opened it up for sure. So,
well, solid.
Quite a move on his part.
And what a solid move, what a solid strategy. He certainly knew what he had in hand here tonight for this first stage. We'll see how it plays out in the second stage. We take a quick commercial break. You'll learn a lot more about the K1 speed around you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on VirtualRacing.Network. And welcome back here on VirtualRacing.Network. I'm Trevor Greenfield, joined by Alex Axman. You saw it live here as Gavin Rogers did a late stage number 1 lunge to the front, took advantage of Ronnie Norman's early usage of those tires. Gavin had a little bit more in the bag, was able to take that first stage victory. Alex, you were just talking here at the break that you've actually done the K1 Speed experience. Tell the viewers what that was like.
Well, I've lived in both Phoenix and Kansas City, and both do have a K1 Speed location, and I absolutely love it. I think I ride with the motorcycle group. We actually go out to the K1 Speeds about once a year in Kansas City, and it is always a riot. It's a great environment. I've had fun, and it's normally always family friendly, and it's always a good show. And not only that, when you get to pit yourself against other people that think they're fast, it's always a riot for sure.
And like I said, I had done this forever ago, but it was so enjoyable. You walk away with, if you haven't done a lot of go-kart racing, your arms will be tired. You'll feel like you got your money's worth, and there's, of course, food and all kinds of other stuff to do there as well. You get a little bit of training. What a fun family experience. It does cost a little bit, but it's not as expensive as going to Disneyland, I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's definitely not as expensive as Disneyland for sure, but it's a great experience. I am getting ready to take my wife out to one. I think we might do it during the winter since we're in kind of our off season of most of our racing stuff, but it's such a fun experience going out there and doing that, and it's always a good fun time. And you've seen that kind of in the commercial there, the little victory podium. That's always a fun deal to take pictures and then send to everybody that didn't get a chance to stand on the podium. But
honestly, it's really safe. It's indoors. They of course use 4-cycle engines, so the emissions are very low. And it's just fun for the whole family. It's like a little sample of what a real life racing event is like. It And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those people that come through that get the bug. They want to go out go-kart racing. They want to go maybe do some midget racing or something like that. But here we go. We're coming back here live to the K1 Speed 175 second stage. Of course, our hearts are with Bill Hale out there. Sad that he couldn't be here tonight, but we're rooting for you out there. And back here in the group, it's Ronnie Norman and Adam Buzzio fighting it out for third place as Stephen Borbell has gotten into second. Norman manages to slot in, and it looks like everybody has managed to find a place in line right now as Gavin has jumped out to the early start lead. And we'll see what his strategy is for this second stage. Of course, Stephen Dombrowski, hey, thanks for checking in with us over in our YouTube chat room. What do we have here? Looks like a great night of racing. Hello, Trevor. Let's go, Ronnie. Stormin' Norman, you bet. He might have to storm a little bit as he has now taken that position away from Adam Buzzio, but he still sits in third place. Hopefully this isn't one of those races, if you're a Ronnie Norman fan, where he gets caught up in someone else's thing and has to storm all the way through the field. But here he goes storming past Stephen Borbell from Next Level Motorsports and really cutting into that trifecta of teammates over at Next Level. But now you see Buzzio and Borbell teammates racing it out. Borbell really drifting back quickly. He's lost several positions in the span of a lap, and now you see Hughes and Pooler fighting it out for that fifth spot.
And you're starting to see the drivers are getting more and more comfortable with that high side, which means that this lower line is starting to get heated up, and it seems like that high side is starting to become the spot to be when making a move here. We've seen it a couple times now where getting around the high side is not so scary anymore as the track heats up here at Dover. But it's quite an interesting fight right now. You're watching kind of a train form. Obviously some drivers are making moves, and we're going to continue seeing those moves. Now the question is going to be, so everybody jumped out and is pushing hard here. At what point do you start backing off and conserving tires, and what point do you just keep pushing hard? And pushing hard, Pooler is doing.
How about Ronnie Norman pushing hard and now taking over that top spot again from Gavin Rogers, and Gavin just kind of lets him go on that high side. So move Ronnie Norman. He stormed his way. You called it, Stephen Dombrowski. He stormed his way right up into that top spot once again. Well, and as you were saying, Alex, it's a very calculated thing. When do you use up what you got? And knowing how the track is, how the weather is, there you can see on your screen, it's 96 degrees on the track. That's cooled down a little bit from the race start, but it's still pretty warm out there. When do you make your move in these stages? Do you use up all your stuff so early on that it might come back to haunt you as it did Ronnie Norman earlier? Or, as we now have, I believe it's Cameron Stearns having an issue. Yes, indeed, he is down on the apron right there. Number one machine having a problem.
Looks like he's got a little bit of damage on that right front as well.
Yes, and I'm sure, let's see if we can find this replay here of Cameron Stearns. He's now pulled it into the pits. He's already down on the apron at that point, and we'll see if we can track it down. There you go. I did see a little bit of smoke as he was coming through the corner and just in front of Ronnie Norman, and right up into the wall, gets loose on exit. Stearns, again, that's how easy it is, Alex, to just get it slightly wrong in the corner and have your race kind of fall away from you. Now he's going to go down a couple of laps sitting in those pits.
And while we were checking out this replay here, Pooler is now moved up to second, chasing down Mr. Ronnie Norman, and he is holding right there, about 0.2 of a second. So not a lot of space in between these drivers, and he's closing the gap. So this is the first time we've seen Pooler moving his way to the front here as this race moves on. First stage he was coming in. I think he ended up landing about 7th, I want to say. I might be wrong in my statement. But he landed kind of in the middle of the pack of the first stage, but here he is knocking on the door of Ronnie Norman.
I mean, impressive stuff from Pooler to not only take over the position from Rogers, but also Buzzio. And now he's looking at Ronnie Norman, and he wants to get up there and put himself in position to get the stage win here in the second stage of the K1 Speed 175. Looks like he's doing whatever he needs to do. I know Ashley Pooler out there is rooting him on. Ashley says, yeah, P2. Well, that may not be the end of things, but we're going to have to keep watching here to see what happens. In the meantime, Buzzio clawing into this, to the top 2 as well, just about 3.5 tenths back. So we'll see whether Buzzio has something to say about whether he can take over second or first here, but he's certainly trying to keep him honest and keep Next Level Motorsports in the middle of this one. Looks like Pooler had a little bit of trouble coming off the corner. That's going to expose him here potentially to Buzzio, and is Pooler starting to suffer from using those tires? One other thing, Alex, you were talking about the track temperature. Remember, iRacing just before our last race actually introduced that big update where the track surface heats up where the cars run the most. So if everybody is running in single file on the low line, that means there's going to be a little bit more grip available to drivers if they run up in that top lane. And we saw Ronnie Norman take advantage of that to his advantage in the previous race. I wonder how that's going to factor in here at a short track with a concrete surface like Dover. Here comes
I think it's going to be
Buzzio by Pooler. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're perfectly fine. Yep, and Buzzio's holding there. It's going to be an interesting battle. That high line is going to be cooler for sure, and we're going to see that. And the update is on Dover. I haven't had the pleasure of racing on Dover since the update, but it's having the temperature differences. If drivers can take advantage of that, it's going to be game changer, especially on a short track. Because when you can get into that cool spot and you can hold that high line, it's going to work out for sure.
Well, and this is where you got to kind of just feel it out. Honestly, it's we did see Dustin Stallings making a pit, but it looks like he has skipped out of this race. So Stallings now out of this race. He was up there, I believe, in 10th place. He might have had a technical issue that has taken him out of the race, but Norman still holding down the top spot. Buzzio in second, Pooler in third, Maddox in fourth, and Gavin Rogers, who took that first stage victory, now sitting back here in fifth. Alex, any chance that this is all part of Rogers' plan to just kind of take it easy in the first half of this stage and then start using up that equipment in the second half?
Oh, I have no doubt. Rogers has played his cards several times over, and he's done a good job for sure. And it seems like he tends to enjoy hanging back and conserving his equipment. Oh, we're getting a little bit loose here. Looks like Richard Wolsifer had a little bit of trouble coming out of that turn and handed up a position to Patinko, who's now moving up to sixth.
Yeah, and Wolsifer had that same problem in the first stage. He went a bit deeper into that first stage before he had that problem, but now it looks like he's going to lose another spot to Stephen Borbell, who's coming up forward. So we'll have to watch from Rogers and see if he starts making some passes here towards the end of this second stage, or if part of his strategy is to kind of not go up there and challenge as much for the stage points, but set himself up for that third and final stage. We'll watch for that, of course, as Ronnie Norman continues to lead here at the Monster Mile, Dover Motor Speedway. Ronnie Norman taking second place in that first stage. He's the championship leader for Full Send eSports. Adam Buzzio now holding on a strong second place, and he may force his hand here before too long to try to take over that position, although we did see Carl Pooler trying to do the same thing, and that was the beginning of his demise, starting to walk backwards now, a full second back from this group.
Yeah, and we've seen it too. Norman is very careful when he's coming out of these upper corners. You don't see his car shuffling near as bad as some of the other drivers, and he seems to have that control, and it seems like that is what's keeping him up there. But keep in mind, he's coming into some lap traffic. He's got people knocking on his door. If I was sitting in Norman's shoes right now, I think the sweat would start rolling just a little bit.
Well, how about this? Right now, Buzzio trying the high side. Excuse me, that was a lap car up on the high side, black and red as well. But Buzzio there on the low side, and yes, indeed, how about a half a second difference? Perhaps Norman able to get through that lap traffic a little bit easier than Buzzio was. Meanwhile, Gavin Rogers right now fighting with Carl Pooler. He's made one pass already since we were talking about him a moment ago, and here comes Gavin Rogers back into podium position for this stage.
Yeah, and Gavin Rogers has almost got this down like clockwork at this point. You see him kind of hold back, take his time, and then when he's in seems like once he's got his groove down or he's got locked in on what he wants to do, you'll see him start closing that gap up. And we watched it one last time, and I wouldn't be surprised if we watch him try to make some more moves here in the future as he gets around here as well.
He does work his way by. I believe that was another lap car there. And right now he is just about 1.86 seconds back from Adam Buzzio. So he's still got a ways to climb up there. We'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, back here, this is starting to shuffle up a lot. That's Pooler and Patinko. Patinko rides up the track. Pooler kind of racing in that higher groove. Patinko having a little bit of issue sticking in the middle of the corner. Gonna go three wide into the corner. Borbell, Maddox down to the inside. Borbell out there on the outside. Patinko. Oh my goodness, three wide at Dover. Alex, I don't know.
My butt was puckering. I did just even being in just having the time in iRacing, three wide is just scary. And oh, there goes Pooler.
Pooler, a big moment. Comes down to the inside wall on the front straight. Excuse me, on the back straight, and wowee, that was a close one, but he manages to hold on to it there in 7th place. Woo. A lot of changes happening right now as the tires start to wear out there coming up to the tail end of this second stage. In the meantime, this lead is 6.5 tenths of a second. And you jump back to Adam Buzzio in second place. Gavin Rogers now 1.7 seconds back, so a long ways to catch up if he is going to by the end of this second stage. And by the way, don't mean to count out Donna Lee, our first chatter of the night. Donna Lee says, "Let's do this, Gavin." So Gavin, at least with somebody in the fan club out there in our YouTube chat tonight. Always great to see everybody joining in. Feel free to chat with us. Let us know where you're watching from, who you're rooting on, who you think's going to win. All those goodies. If you're enjoying our broadcast, we always love to know. I'm Trevor Greenfield. This is Alex Axman here in the booth with you tonight on a beautiful Tuesday evening. And also lots of folks on the East Coast right now really experiencing weather issues. I know you one of them, Alex, and certainly us down here in Florida. We've got tornadoes and all kinds of heavy winds, rains. It's an interesting time in the middle of the winter here on the East Coast, but we're all getting through it, thankfully. And we're seeing a great race here in the K1 Speed 175. This is a tight one here at the front. As Buzzio's now closed in, it's under 0.3 of a second, and this is just where Ronnie Norman kind of had his first stage fall apart as well.
Yeah, and hopefully Norman can keep it together this time around. But as we've seen it before, Norman is hot and heavy right out of the stage. He tends to make that move, and I think what we're starting to see is that when he makes those stage moves and he gets some hard push early on, he's getting hot on the tires, and sure enough, Buzzio is creeping in. Gavin Rogers shortly behind him, and it looks like Buzzio is he's looking for that window.
Looking for the window, possibly looking for the stage win. And if he doesn't get it, he's given Ronnie Norman something to think about. And then look who has joined back to the scene. It's none other than Donnelly's favorite, Gavin Rogers, the number 77 for Next Level Motorsports, now in this fight for the top 2 positions. This is getting hot and heavy as we get to the end of the second stage. Gavin getting dangerously close to his teammate, Adam Buzzio, as Buzzio crosses over the track. Now Rogers going to take a look down the inside of Buzzio through the corner. You can't forget they may be teammates. Ooh, Rogers. And the yellow flag is out. And that is for the end of the second stage. So I was, for some reason, thinking in my head we were going to 95, but in fact it was lap number 90. Ronnie Norman hangs on and is able to take the top spot in the second stage. That's big news for the points in the championship, and we'll see how it works out in the third and final stage. Much longer stage in the final one. That's going to be upwards of about 80 laps, so we'll see if Norman can hold on. Will it be Buzzio's night for the first time this season? Will it be Gavin Rogers in the winners column, or one of the other drivers? Stay tuned here on VirtualRacing.Network. We'll be right back in just a moment with the third and final stage. Welcome back here on VirtualRacing.Network, and there's been a little bit of change as we were away at commercial break. Ronnie Norman took a very long time on pit road, 26 seconds, and in fact, there he is back on pit lane right now, and I'm not sure if this is just part of... I'm not sure if he's going to visit his pit lane or what the plan is here, but Norman...
It's a drive-through,
no,
maybe.
He is coming into the pit box. So I'm not exactly sure. It didn't seem like he had any issues. Perhaps he just wanted to take that little bit of extra fuel. I don't know what the fuel window is here, but he's done this before, and perhaps that little bit of a top off. Can he make it to the end? Is he going to try to make it to the end? That would be a crazy... That would be a crazy plan.
But we've seen a lot of crazy from Norman. I mean, we really have. His strategies have been unorthodox for sure, but has seemed to always work out. So I'm not sure if he was taking extra fuel, but or if he was taking 4 and some of the other drivers only took 2. I'm not sure why the longer pit, but I imagine there's a reason for it. So
yeah, it was 26 seconds in the box. That's a really long time. Everyone else doing about 14 seconds in the box. So maybe a little bit of damage repair, or maybe stop and hold or something like that. But either way, everything's back underway now. Ronnie Norman, I believe, just took a little top off there on pit road. And while we're talking about it, I was informed by my co-part here, Alex, who let me know that K1 Speed is actually all electric karts now. So just tells you how long ago I was doing it. Electric karts were like the future back then. And they had switched over to 4-cycle karts. Of course, before 4-cycle, we had dangerous 2-cycle where you mix the oil with the gasoline and put off tons of smoke. You can never run those indoors. But now full electric, so very safe. And they also apparently have the ability to like stop your kart if you're a total danger or if somebody is. So even more safe. Really great facility. I'm looking forward to getting back out to K1. I don't have one right near me, but as soon as I get near one, I'm going to jump in there. And Alex, you said you're heading off to one. That is really cool. In the meantime, we're back underway here at Dover Motor Speedway. Adam Buzzio leads us back to that green flag. Gavin Rogers in second. Stephen Borbell in third. Jared Hughes in fourth. Carl Pooler is sitting in that fifth spot. All these drivers on old tires. What's it going to mean for them? They're going to be able to hold it through the corners and get off safely. That is going to be the question as we watch. Looks like everybody holding on to their cars so far. We'll wait for these tires to get up to 10.
Yeah, and Buzzio had a really strong jump out there, and seems like Rogers is up there. Borbell, Hughes is a name we haven't seen up in the top grouping very long, and Cooler kind of back in the fifth spot. It's a strong pack up front right now, and definitely curious to see what shakes down here once the drivers get settled back in, tires get warmed up. We'll probably start seeing a lot more moves come out of it, but I think right now everybody's like just trying to hold them together and see what happens.
I'll tell you what, this guy is not holding back at all. Adam Buzzio already out to a second and a half over his teammate Stephen Borbell. I have no idea what the heck is going on there, but he has opened a monster lead already in the first part of this third stage. Ashley Pooler checking in with us as we watch this battle now between Jared Hughes, who's up into third spot, and Gavin Rogers. Ashley Pooler saying, speaking of weather, it was minus 11 with a minus 27 wind chill where Carl and I live in Colorado this morning. I think I'd much rather be in Florida. Yeah, I tell you what, it hit 60 or 55 degrees here in Florida. People are out there in their parkas and their super heavy winter coats and everything, complaining about the cold weather. So yeah, it's definitely different. I lived in North Idaho for a number of years. I know about those minus temperatures too, Ashley, but good luck to you down there in Colorado and getting through this heavy winter. That is for sure. I know you've got a blizzard or something going on up there, Alex.
Yeah, we just got 6 inches of snow out here in Kansas, and we've got about 40-mile-an-hour winds, which is just picking up the snow and blowing it everywhere. And yeah, it's a great night to be inside racing, that's for sure.
I used to do grocery delivery, and man, I did it in the ice. I did it in the snow. Do I miss those days? No, I do not. But back at it here. This is some great racing at the start of this third stage, some great strategy getting played out. Did Adam Buzzio go out there? He set the fastest lap of the race, as you would expect with this cooler track out there as it is right now. But did he go out there and use up a little bit of that equipment early on? This has been the theme so far here tonight. Drivers going out there and perhaps getting up to the front, or perhaps, as Ronnie Norman did in that first stage, maybe using up a little bit too much early on and suffering through the rest of the stage. We're seeing Ronnie Norman work his way through the field. Stormin' Ronnie Norman had that very long pit stop there during the stage caution, and right now has gotten his way back up into 8th place. And also seeing Matthew Erickson, and just behind him, Zachary King for Spirit Racing and Brendan Maddox. All these drivers having a battle. And also, I should point out, there is Dustin Stallings. He did return to the track. So for the Dustin Stallings fan club out there, he is back racing once again. Unfortunately, a long ways down. So just out there trying to rack up maybe a few points. Number 77, Gavin Rogers, checks in with another fan club member. Great to have you, Park Stanford crew, checking in. Let's go, number 77. Well, Gavin, I mean, this championship would be all in the favor of Gavin Rogers right now if it weren't for that pesky Ronnie Norman, who seemed to have some interesting strategy calls and some controversial on-track activity. According to some, I'll just say that. Nothing official, nothing reprimanded or anything like that. But let's just say not everybody is super fan of some of the tactics of Ronnie Norman out there on the track. But in the meantime, he's been able to take over that championship, and Gavin Rogers is doing whatever he can to put Ronnie Norman long distance back in that rearview mirror. Right now, these two nose to tail on the track.
Yeah, our two leaders in the middle of the pack here. We'll have to see kind of how they manage to wiggle their way back up to the front as these laps turn around. And it seems like they're just taking by faster and faster every time we go around. I know that's not necessarily the case, but it just sitting here in the booth watching these cars go around, and almost it's crazy how fast these guys are moving. And if you were Gavin Rogers, I mean, you know, at what point, you know, you got Norman back here in the middle of the pack, do you just keep him pinned back there as long as you can until you're ready to make your move?
Well, again, we don't know what Norman is planning. He came in and topped off. Is he thinking that he's really going to run to the end? Is that possible? It's a short track. You know, you can make a lot of laps. And here goes Ronnie Norman around the outside of Rogers. Is Rogers planning to fuel save and make it to the end? Is that why he's back here in 8th place? Is the goal to send Adam Buzzio and Stephen Borbell out there off the front and let them go out there and try and distract Ronnie Norman? You know, certainly if, as you mentioned, is the goal to keep him behind in the rear view and try and hold him up, that's always a good strategy. The longer you can keep your opponent behind you. And wow, we saw some blinking in and out there, I believe, from Zachary King in the W machine, number 51. Looks like his internet connection cutting out a little bit, but back to this battle. Here comes Ronnie Norman by Matthew Porter for the 6th position. Matthew Porter racing there for Southern Mafia, Midwest eSports in that number 4 machine. But Norman starting to move forward, starting to storm as he's known to do, but 4.5 seconds off of Adam Buzzio at the moment. And Buzzio doing a solid job up here in front. Stephen Borbell had gotten a little bit closer, but right now it is that initial 1.5 second lead that he had is now just down to 3/4 seconds. So perhaps Borbell going to be creeping in and taking a chance on taking that position away from his teammate Adam Buzzio. Again, Borbell would love to get a W here tonight. Who wouldn't? How about this guy, Jared Hughes? Newcomer here, who's showing very well right now, racing in that 3rd spot. Hughes looking to possibly take home this podium if no one else can come forward, like Ronnie Norman or Gavin Rogers. But yeah, I don't know, Alex. It's a little too early to call on what the strat is for Ronnie Norman. I know that if he was going to go up and use all of his equipment, he might have stormed up to that lead really quickly. So something tells me he is holding back a little bit. And given the fact that Gavin is now down here in 10th position, I'd have to imagine that the butt kicker car is not kicking as much butt right now as it could. It's detuned itself a little bit.
Car get loose just in front of him. It looks like Erickson might have gotten just loose right in front of him, managed to collect it back up and not collect everybody else. Yeah, it's going to be real interesting as the laps tick down. Are you hoping on a caution? Are you betting on a caution? Are you going to try to run it all the way through? You know, if there isn't enough fuel, you know, do you take the chance on a green pit? The short track is always a questionable stance for sure, and a green pit on a short track that's a huge gamble because of how fast the laps tick by here.
Well, Norman continues his storm through the field and now has worked his way around Carl Pooler for the 5th position. So right now he's got his sights set on Evan Patinko for 4th. He'll dive in there into turn number 3 and he'll snag that 4th position from Patinko, and that gap all the way up to Buzzio is now down to 2.45 seconds. Last time by, Ronnie Norman 23.57, Buzzio 23.88, Corbell 23.99, Jared Hughes 23.86. So something's going on here. I mean, Norman can't be that much faster than everybody else if he's trying to save fuel. And I mean, I can't imagine the rest of these guys, if they're not trying to save fuel, would be that slow. This is a good time where it'd be nice to have Vincent Arthur or Christian Snyder with us and could maybe give us a little bit more info, but we're going to call it as we see it here as Ronnie Norman gets around Jared Hughes up into that 3rd spot. Right now, storming not Ronnie Norman, earning his name, and Steven Dombrowski loving every minute of it as Norman gets up into that 3rd spot.
Yeah, I wish I had more experience under my belt. I played around with NASCAR. I didn't have a lot of time in it. I was more of a road course guy. But seeing what Norman's doing, it almost makes you wonder if he didn't take extra fuel just to be able to really punch down and maybe move through the field as these guys are saving fuel. I just get the impression that some of these guys are not full out right now. They're just kind of conserving it. Track's getting warm, tires are getting warm. As we keep turning through laps, I am just struggling thinking that Norman is really punching that down unless everybody else is kind of just taking their time and feeling this out.
Well, Norman came in 1 lap later and took a little bit of fuel. Now, 1 lap of fuel savings isn't that much that you would see this big of a performance difference on the track. I mean, you could easily, you know, take a little bit off each lap and eventually over the course of the 3rd stage be able to save up how much you need in order to be able to make it to the end if that's the case. But either way, Ronnie feels confident, so it almost has that appearance, like you're saying, of a driver who saved fuel early on, came in a lap later than everyone else and topped off. And right now, he's seeing laps to the positive in his fuel calculator. So he thinks that he can go full tilt. And here he goes, Ronnie Norman up into that 2nd spot over Stephen Borbell. Now 2.3 seconds is the gap up to Buzzio. However, I should point out, Buzzio has now, Norman has slowed a little bit, upwards of 23.98, while Adam Buzzio is down around a 23.9 flat. And so we're starting to see this gap that at one point was 4.5 seconds, dropped down to about 2.2 seconds. Now it's up to 2.45 seconds. And we'll see whether or not Buzzio can continue to meter out on these tires as we are under 50 laps to go here in the 3rd and final stage of the K1 Speed 175 from Dover Motor Speedway.
Yeah, Buzzio's in a good spot. He's got a comfortable lead. If he wanted to back down a little bit and conserve some tires, he's definitely got the time and space to do it. It looks like we got a little grouping here. Hughes, Patinko, Pooler, kind of filtering all in. You know, we're a little early yet to really be pushing, I would believe. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing is I think the drivers are kind of holding out. I think it's going to get really chaotic come the last, I'd say probably 10 when the drivers start making the moves for sure. But Patinko is hanging right there. Hughes, for the first time I've seen his name out here, he might have made some other races that I wouldn't cast him for, but Hughes is looking really good for being out here and doing what he's doing.
Yeah, really solid performance from Hughes. I have to say, across all of the leagues, we've definitely seen those drivers who come in and they are very fast. And you see it in real life too. They come in, they're super fast, but maybe they don't have the racecraft to be able to hang there the whole race. And again, still a long ways to go in this one, but Hughes has looked solid. He's held his own. Right now, in 4th place here in a big race, the BRB Buttkicker Cup Series. He is looking really strong in this debut and holding position right now over Evan Patinko and Carl Pooler, who have quite a lot of experience already this season in this series. But just as I say that, here comes Evan Patinko down to the low side. He's going to try to get by Hughes, and he does.
Yeah, it seems like when these drivers are jumping down and ready to make their move, when they jump down to that inside, the guys that are in front moving to that high side, I don't know if that's hey, I need to just let him by, or if it's that inside line is still just the spot to be and the high side is still not there. My experience with Dover, the high side has never been pleasant. And I haven't had the opportunity to race on it since the new update, so that might have changed, but going as you do.
One of the things that does happen for sure, Alex, is you hold in that groove for a long time, and these cars are kind of prima donnas anyway. What'll happen is you keep holding in, and if you're not right on top of what those tires are doing, it'll start to come around on you, and it'll jump you up into that top lane. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it at that point because you've already cooked the tires. So you have to adjust the way that you drive the car in order to balance those tires and make sure that you stay on top. Now it's, it cost Jared Hughes a position, but he's managed to stabilize.
Ooh, Norman's going into the pits now.
Norman headed into the pits. So there goes that.
Move on a green.
There goes that strategy of thinking that he could make it much further. I know they have an 80% fuel tank. I just don't know the fuel window for this particular race. Again, I'm not 100% sure why Norman would need to come in at this point, but
might be a bet on a yellow. But you know who's not betting on a yellow right now is Adam Buzzio with a 3.5 second lead over second place. He's sitting awful comfortable in this race right now.
Yeah, this is, right now, Buzzio, he, about 10 laps ago, we were questioning, maybe about 15 laps ago, we were questioning, is Norman going to be able to dial in Buzzio? And he was clipping off the tenths of a second each and every lap. But Buzzio found something. He's been able to stabilize this lead. He's found something in the car. And right now he continues it. This last lap, he was the fastest car on track with a 24.11. So he from the time I was talking about it 20 laps ago, he's only lost 0.2 of a second on the track. So right now, he is doing the best. We go back to Jared Hughes, who we were talking about before, 24.86. That's 0.7 of a second slower than Adam Buzzio right now. So Buzzio really finding the groove here at Dover, and perhaps the Monster Bio will be a little bit kinder to Adam Buzzio here tonight, as he has not yet taken victory here in his own league. That would be fun.
Yeah, I know the first race I came out and casted for, there was that hiccup right at the very end there, and I mean, you'd seen several drivers get caught up in it that were running really well, and as we look back over the field, looks like the drivers have really made an appearance out here today. Christopher Campbell is up 6 spots. Richard Wilson up 6. Oh, now 7 spots.
Yeah, indeed.
Brandon Patinko is up 7 spots. So there's some drivers making moves.
And this is a good time to make moves when other drivers start falling off with their tires. But I'll tell you what I just saw. If I can get this up on the screen, you'll notice that purple lap from Ronnie Norman. How about 23.14 seconds for Ronnie Norman? A screaming lap around Dover Motor Speedway. And he's not going to back that up on this lap, but fastest definitely by far so far. I take it back, Adam Buzzio pretty close with a 23.16, but everyone else 2 to 3 tenths off of that fast lap. So this may turn into a final battle between Norman and Buzzio, and obviously Norman trying to take advantage of the undercut strategy, get in there, get your tires, get some fast laps in, and try and see if you can't make the pass in the pits, so to speak.
Yeah, and he pitted on a green, and now he's got to make those laps back, and he is back up on one, and he is just rocking around this track right now. It's crazy how fast he's moving. That begins to ask the question, if he's coming in for greens, Hughes has just came in for another pit, are we going to start seeing green pits, and is that going to work out? Are we going to have another caution that people can take a pit on? Or are we going to run greens and people are going to have to make those laps up? That's what we're going to have to figure out here.
Well, certainly Norman would not want to see a caution come out right now. That would be kind of the last thing in the world that Hughes is 2 laps down. We see right now Porter coming into the pits under the green. So, another one of these green flag pit stops, and a lot of these drivers just do not want to see a yellow flag come out. That would kill their strategy. But right now, Buzzio, he'd love to see a yellow flag come out. That'd be just perfect for him. But will that happen? I don't know. In the meantime, I see some smoke. But it looks like whoever that was did manage to get off of the racing surface. I believe that's Dustin Stallings again having an issue getting down onto pit lane, and definitely some damage there on that machine. Though we didn't see exactly when that occurred, but Stallings, Alex, that's not the way they're supposed to look there. This is not a modified machine. They typically supposed to have a bunch more bodywork on the front of those machines than are there right now. Adam Buzzio, though, this is an awesome race so far. 3.75 seconds his lead over Stephen Borbell. Gavin Rogers now about to take that position away from Borbell. There goes Rogers by his teammate. So 3.8 seconds, 3.9 seconds, the gap between Buzzio and Rogers. And then you got to go 1.8 seconds back from Borbell to Patinko. Now, you were talking about those fresh tires on Jared Hughes. What does that mean? How about last time by, fastest lap of the race, 23.11 seconds. Those new tires, a full second, over a full second a lap faster at the Dover Mile than old tires for Adam Buzzio right now.
Well, and just time that we've been talking, just Rogers was sitting all the way back about 10th. And in the time that we've been talking, in the last 20 laps, he has been hammering down. But we've seen this from Rogers before, where he sat back. It seems like he kind of conserved the equipment, conserved the tires, maybe saving on fuel, and then as the laps start ticking down, he starts coming up, and that's exactly what he's done. And, my question is now, does Buzzio have the equipment to hang out for the rest of this, or is he going to have to fall back? I don't know, but he's still holding about a 4-second lead, and that door is closing as Rogers comes around. So it's going to be real interesting to see what Adam's plan is here for the last 20 as he comes around here.
Yeah, definitely 20 laps to go now for Adam Buzzio. Gavin Rogers, his teammate, in second place. Stephen Borbell in third. Their nearest competition that had shown so well earlier in this race was Ronnie Norman, but he came in on a green flag stop. And of course, all those new tires on Ronnie Norman starting to wear off, still doing 23.40. So still significantly faster than those drivers up in the lead who had not yet pitted. And right now, Ronnie Norman, if we take a look back, let's go to that. There you can see Ronnie Norman working his way around Richard Wolsifer. That is the 6th place car. And next up on his list is going to be Carl Pooler. And basically, he's going to have to do about a little bit more than that, about 14 seconds on the track in 18 laps to just get his lap back. Now, Buzzio, if he were to come into the pits right now, I think he loses the lead by about 5 seconds to Ronnie Norman. So this is either going to get crazy if Buzzio has to come in, or if Buzzio doesn't have to come in, he is going to win this one by a mile. Of course, he does have to worry about his teammates back here, but this is going to be amazing stuff as we get to the end of this stage. Are we going to see a caution come out that might bail these front drivers out? This is why we watch. Stunning stuff as we get into this late third stage of the K1 Speed 175.
Yep, and just a couple laps ago, coming into about lap 20, we were seeing about 4-second gap between Buzzio and Rogers, and Rogers is just closing that door, and he is doing it lap by lap. He is cutting down that time to Buzzio. So it's going to be real interesting. These next couple laps are going to get really, really exciting. And then if you look up on your right side of your screen, you can check out and watch your favorite drivers, see their position on the track as we round out the last 15 to go here at Dover.
This is the exciting part right now. Are we going to see a pit stop from the top drivers? Did they save enough fuel to make it to the end? Was it a gamble that Ronnie Norman shouldn't have made to come in and take that green flag stop and come out on those fresh tires and try and win on speed? If it stays green, we're going to find out the answer to all of those questions. 13 laps remain for Adam Buzzio, Gavin Rogers in second, Stephen Borbell in third, Evan Kotinko back here in fourth. He's having a solid race, up 6 spots from where he qualified. He's going to hopefully finish this one with a top 5. Carl Pooler, Ashley Pooler, watching him get all the way up into second place, possibly have a shot at the top spot, but right now he's holding on to 5th. He's up 1 spot from where he qualified, and that is always, top 5s. If you could just get top 5s for every single race, you would finish like in the top 2 or 3 in the championship. So still got to count it out and make sure you get to the end of the race. Richard Wolsifer recovering from a couple of loose moments earlier in the race. Right now, 8 positions gained on this race. Running in 6th spot. Oh, he is fuel saving. We jump on board with him. You'll hear it as he gets to the end of the front straightaway. There you hear him clutching and coasting.
Yep, and in real life, you typically don't want to play with the clutch, but here in the iRacing world, that fuel saving with that clutch is definitely necessary. But if he's fuel saving, you know, what other drivers are going to have to run that strat? Is Adam Buzzio going to have to start using that? Is he getting tight on fuel? You know, this is it's going to be a close race.
Oh, he is clutching.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is.
Through a huge portion of the corner right now, running 24.29 on this track. And if we jump back to, you can hear him really taking his foot out of the gas there. Is Ronnie Norman having to do that? I don't think so. Ronnie Norman out there still running 24.17. So not having to clutch and coast, getting an extra 2 to 3/10 of a second. But Adam, if he can clutch and coast his way to this victory, he doesn't have to worry about being a little bit slower out there. He's going to win by a mile. However, Gavin Rogers is the only one he has to worry about, and he's 2 seconds back right now. So this is Adam's race to win or lose, depending on how much fuel he needs to save here in the final 7 laps.
Win or lose, or a yellow will flip this whole thing upside down right now. I'm anxious. I really hope it doesn't happen. I would love to see Adam take a win here in his own series, but as we're ticking down, we got 6 to go, and if anybody knows racing, anything can happen in a very quick time span.
Well, this is it. This is crunch time. High five from Barney the Flagman. You'll see that high five as Adam Buzzio cruises around. Adam going to be thankful that that high five comes out from Barney, and that just means 5 more clicks around Dover Motor Speedway. Does he have enough in the tank? Does Gavin Rogers have enough in the tank? Does Stephen Borbell? Or is the only one who's going to have enough is Roddy Norman and Jared Hughes? So we'll find out here very shortly. But Gavin Rogers closing that gap ever so slightly, 1.5 seconds between Buzzio and Rogers. Borbell back 5.5 seconds from that group, so not close enough. Evan Patinko right now 1.6 seconds back, and then Carl Pooler still 0.7 of a second back from 4th place. You see Ronnie Norman has worked his way up to 4th place to unlap himself, but he'd have to go all the way up to Adam Buzzio, who's still quite a ways ahead. Is Adam Buzzio going to be able to lift and coast his way to victory here? Does he have enough in that tank to make it? Did he do what it took to conquer the Monster Mile? He is coasting through like 2/3 of each corner now. That is some serious, I mean, because he doesn't want to lose to Rogers. So
yeah, it's he's playing with fire. Unfortunately, he's playing with fire. I mean, the time is dropping off quick as Rogers is pushing hard now. But it's such a game of, you know, I don't need to lose time, but I need to make sure the car goes.
There's the white flag. 1 more lap to go for Adam Buzzio. 0.6 of a second back to Rogers. I think Buzzio's got enough to just coast around this track, but will Rogers close in? He's coming 0.3 of a second.
Coming hard.
Is Rogers going to be able to steal this victory out on the last corner from Adam Buzzio? He's going to try the high side. Buzzio cuts him off.
The block.
And he taps him in the rear, and the block gives him the win. Adam Buzzio takes the K1 Speed 175 from Dover Motor Speedway. Gavin Rogers in 2nd place, and Stephen Borbell, Next Level Motorsport teammate, finishes in 3rd. What an amazing race, and relegates Ronnie Norman and his strategy all the way back to 9th. That is going to kill his points lead here tonight. And I don't know if we'll get a chance to chat with him. I'm sure we probably won't after this race, but that was an interesting strategy call that really set the stage for these 3 teammates to take the podium position. With that, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
to be able to finish with an entire team, 1, 2, and 3, man, that's got to make them guys feel really, really good.
I cannot wait to interview these guys. So we're going to take a momentary break here. We'll get the final results for you up on the screen as Buzzio, Rogers, and Borba. Buzzio may be out of gas, actually.
I think he's out of fuel. I think his teammates pushed him up to the line. I think he is. Yep, that engine is off.
Just made it to the finish. Well, we're going to take a momentary break. We're going to get everything up on the screen, get our interviewers ready here. We'll be right back on VirtualRacing.Network. Don't go anywhere. You'll want to hear these interviews coming up in just a moment. And welcome back here on VirtualRacing.Network. You saw it live. Adam Buzzio clutches and coasts his way to victory here at the K1 Speed 175 at Dover Motor Speedway. Evan Patinko checking in and says, ran out of fuel coming out of 4 on the last lap. And Ashley Pooler says, P5 and P6, including Carl Pooler and Richard Wolsifer. Not bad, you betcha. Great finish and great for their championships. But the men of the evening are from Next Level Motorsports, who finished 1, 2, 3. Adam Buzzio, the head honcho here in the BRB Buttkicker Series, manages to survive and take that top spot. And what a great interview that will be. And just behind him, he couldn't quite get through. We'll find out more about that straight from their mouths. Gavin Rogers finishes in that second spot. Stephen Borbell in third. Evan Patinko taking home fourth place. Carl Pooler in fifth. Richard Wolsifer in sixth place. Teammates over there at Limitless eSports. Brendan Maddox finishing in seventh. Zachary King in eighth. Ronnie Norman, that interesting strategy call. We don't quite know what preempted that, but he did spend a lot of time in the box the first time through, and I don't know. I would love to know what happened, but I don't know if we're going to get a chance to chat with him here. Hopefully we'll get a chance to find out before our next broadcast and fill you in. Jared Hughes, they're in 10th place. Matthew Corder in 11th. 12th going to Christopher Campbell. 13th to Matthew Erickson. 14th to Dustin Stallings. 15th to Patrick Hernandez. And 16th to Cameron Stearns, who didn't get to complete tonight's race, unfortunately. But fortunately for everybody who watched, we had quite the barn burner here. And so let's go ahead and see if we can bring in our third place finisher, Stephen Borbell. And there he is. He joins us here live on VirtualRacing.Network. Stephen, congratulations taking third. Next Level Motorsports sweeping the podium. I mean, yes. you had a great race there all night long. Tell us about your race and congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I just want to say how proud I am of this team. Adam, Gavin, and myself getting the 1, 2, 3. It feels really good. And finally, Adam comes through and gets that win. It's really nice to see. Overall, it was a fun race. It was very slick the whole time. You had to know how to save it correctly and not burn your stuff up in the first 20 laps. And thankfully, we had no cautions tonight. It was I was really surprised coming into the practice sessions. Everyone wrecking all the time, but we held it together, and got to give a shout out to everyone that raced. They all did great.
So what was your kart feeling like tonight? Was this one where you held back a little bit and reserved some in the tires for late in the stage? We saw that cost Ronnie Norman early on that first stage. Were you feeling like you gave it everything that you could? And was there any way to be able to tackle your two teammates there in Buzzio and Rogers?
I didn't have the speed to get Adam and Gavin. In the short run, I feel like I did, but in the long run, they had me beat for sure. And same with Ronnie. In the long run, he had me beat. In that first stage, I went pretty all out that whole time and was able to keep pace with Ronnie for the most part and started tailing off towards the end. So the second stage, I tried something else and just went too easy on it and dug myself into a hole and couldn't get it back. So in the third stage, I just tried to do what I did in the first, and it worked out. Slowed down a little bit at the end, but held on enough.
It held on, certainly. There was a lot of up and down in this race, and you did make mention that you were surprised that there were no cautions for contact here. I mean, that's usually what you would hope for, but at a track like this, you might have been gambling on getting a caution or two to help your strategy.
Yeah, it was definitely a risk versus reward, especially in that last stage of us realizing we can make it on fuel. As long as we clutched a little bit here and there, and that's what we just went with and prayed for no caution, and no caution came, thankfully.
Well, a fantastic run from yourself and completing the three Next Level Motorsports drivers there, sweeping the podium. Who would you like to thank for tonight's race?
Of course, I'd like to thank my fiance Addison and all my family and friends who watched the races. Thank you, Adam and Gavin. Great team dub. Also, shout out to our sponsors. We got Buttkicker, we have Sundance Pizza, Trivista, Idealis. Without y'all, we couldn't do what we do. So we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for an amazing broadcast y'all put on every week. We love having you here. And just a quick shout out / plug for the Holler podcast dropping this Thursday. Tune in on Facebook.
Absolutely. Always looking forward to it. Great job that you're doing with that, your new endeavor that you started up over there. Appreciate the kind words, Steven. I'm sure this is not the last time we're going to be interviewing you at the end of one of these races. So good luck.
I hope not.
Good luck with the rest of this season. You got your hands full out there with some great competition.
Definitely appreciate it, guys. Hope to see you soon.
So that is Steven Borbell from Next Level Motorsports. He absolutely held his own and, ended up finishing by 2 seconds over fourth place. A solid run and completing that Next Level Motorsports podium. But second place going to Gavin Rogers, and I believe, Alex, you've had a chance to catch up with Gavin there in second place.
Yeah, I sitting here talking to Gavin, and how was the car feeling? I know you guys were conserving fuel right at the end. How was that call for you guys, and how was the track feeling tonight? I know Dover is a love-hate relationship for a lot of these drivers. How was it for you?
Yeah, Dover tonight for me, it was same old, very loose, especially on a long run. But just so proud of the team effort tonight. It was awesome. We got a team 1, 2, 3. I could have had a shot at getting Adam there if I went low, but I was already loose coming off the corner, and I didn't have enough room to go to his inside without turning him into the wall. So I just kind of pushed him across the line. I would have closest after that. If I went low, I probably would have been on his door. But overall, awesome race. Surprised we had no cautions with how it was driving, but just great to get the team 1, 2, 3.
And we had seen you kind of do the shuffle in the pack throughout the race, where it seemed like you were maybe conserving, falling back a little bit, and then come towards the end of the stages, you would take that strong push. We'd seen that several times over, and you did it again the last 2 laps. You really knocked down the time. And what was going on there? Was that just saving tires, or was there something else clicking in the back of your mind?
Yeah, that was definitely saving tires. I had a league race a few months back, and it drove a little bit differently then. I think we had a little bit more grip on the short run, and tires weren't as promising on the long run. But I backed up definitely too much in the second stage and possibly in the final stage. I know I gave up a ton of time, but you see how much I gained back from that. I mean, I had a shot at the win. That's that's really the best you can say after doing that. But yeah, I don't know. Ronnie was definitely pushing a good bit there. I for sure knew he was pushing it way too hard the first stage. Second stage, I thought I would have had him, and he just held it just to the last second. But yeah, we were. I was definitely saving a lot of time, that's for sure.
Well, and what a show you did. Just you're moving through the field and how clean everything ran, and congratulations on the second place here tonight. Is there anybody you would like to shout out here for the second place win?
Yeah, appreciate it. For sure, want to shout out Adam on the win. Congrats to him. He's really deserved one for a really long time now in the next gen leagues. Shout out to Steven. Awesome top 3 for the team. Shout out to all the league sponsors. Sundance Pizza, Ideally, Strivista, and Buttkicker. Had the Buttkicker paint scheme on tonight, so glad to get a good finish for them. Shout out to all the family watching, all the friends, and all the fans out there watching. Shout out to you guys for doing such a great broadcast, all our admins, and Rev for our race control.
Well, we appreciate it, and we appreciate the show that you have put on tonight.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
And
Gavin.
that, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you so much, Gavin. We'll look forward to seeing you next race, my friend.
All right, preach it, brother. Have a good one.
You too. So, yes, Alex, as you were saying, that was Gavin Rogers. Believe it or not, he didn't take victory. He did take that first stage. He stole it away from Ronnie Norman, and then but Ronnie managed to survive in that second stage. But Gavin, he thought he had it made there in that third and final stage. He held on to what he needed to, but Adam Buzzio, as we bring him in now, Adam Buzzio managed to hold on somehow. We were on board with you, Adam. We heard the clutching and coasting. We had no idea whether you could stay out there, whether you were going to pit and take fuel. What a survival race, and congratulations on leading the Next Level Motorsports sweep of the podium and your first ever victory in the BRB Buttkicker Cup Series.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Really, all I could say is I'm a big hairy American winning machine. So, no, it was intense, man. I don't know what happened. Steven, Gavin, and I were all talking at the beginning of the run, and we all had different fuel mileage estimates for some reason. I short fueled on that second stage, or I'm sorry, at the end of the first stage. I don't know if that had something to do with it, but I was about 5 or 6 laps shorter than they were. And I knew it was going to be close, but I didn't think it was going to be that close. It was tough.
Well, super tough. Obviously, you came out in the third stage and you just blitzed. I mean, you took a huge lead, and then I thought, okay, maybe he's already used up that equipment, so, scratch that. He's going to fall back a little bit in the order again. But you didn't. You stayed out there in the lead throughout. And Ronnie Norman took a strategy call to come in. I don't know what happened in his caution pit stop, but he was on pit road for an extra 10 seconds. And then he came in and pitted and tried to do the undercut strategy on you. And I just thought eventually Adam is going to come in and pull in and get fuel. That didn't happen, Adam. How much work did you have to do to the end of that? I mean, is that the biggest fuel save you've ever had to do? That was amazingly dramatic.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how many laps was that. 75 laps. I must have clutched it in turns in each end of the racetrack for 75% of that run. For a little bit there, about halfway through, it looked like it might be okay after I had saved for a while, but then it immediately became apparent that it wasn't going to be. And I'm not one to gamble on strategy either. I like I said, I didn't think it was going to be that close. I knew Ronnie got caught in the pits. I think he took some damage repair, I believe, is what he was in there doing. I was really surprised to see him go down pit road, though, man. This pit road's very long. It's very slow. All three of us knew we wanted to avoid that at all costs. So I was really surprised to see him go down. I think he might have burned up his stuff trying to work up through the field, though.
Well, he took the first stage. Gavin came through. Or I'm sorry, he took the second stage. Gavin took the first stage. you take the win, and of course, that is going to do wonders for your championship points. Now, here tonight, of course, this is the K1 Speed 175. We got a great chance to talk about that great facility and all of those that are around the country. Of course, people can head over to k1speed.com and see any of those places that they would like to visit with their families. But also another special occurrence out there tonight is in honor of Bill Hales, who's going through some stuff right now. And of course, it was so great of you to work with everybody here and get those ribbons up there on their cars.
Yeah, it was just, I speak from personal experience, and I'm sure I can speak for a lot of other people. We've all had, cancer touch our lives in one way or the other, whether it's personally or through a loved one. And, I know we're a fairly new league and group of guys, but we're still a family, and it's just it's just a small way that we can let him know that we're thinking about him and he has support. So I was happy to do it. I'm glad I could have it on the car tonight and bring it to Victory Lane.
Of course, and we saw Bill up there in the front of the pack earlier on in this season. So of course we'll wish him the best of luck and would love to have him come back and join us here in BRB. But Adam, so much to celebrate tonight. You lead the trifecta of Next Level Motorsports. You sweep that podium, and it's your first win in what frankly is your series. You got a lot to celebrate out there tonight.
Yeah, it's a great night, man. It really is. Probably it's going to be hard to cap this for the rest of the season. I know Gavin and Steven are super excited too. So great night. Happy to break the forever third curse.
Well, no cautions. Maybe that's the strategy going forward that you'll hope for. It's pretty shocking here at a place like Dover, but at the same time, Adam, congratulations. You had the right strategy call tonight. You come out on top, and we'll be very anxious to see how this plays out for the rest of the championship. Congratulations again. Great league that you're running, and we'll have our eye on the number 5.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, I just want to give a couple shout outs. Thank you guys so much for the broadcast. I've said it every time I've been up in this booth. You guys do a fantastic job. Very, very happy that you're on board. So are all the drivers. I want to thank Buttkicker, Sundance Pizza, Trivista, Ideal East, and K1 Speed for their sponsorship and support. I want to thank all the drivers. Great race out there. I'm so proud of everybody, man. Dover's a tough track, and to go with no yellows is fantastic. Special shout out to my teammates, especially Gavin. He could have probably wrecked his boat there coming to the line, but he chose not to, and I appreciate that. And thank my wife Julie, and yeah, that about does it.
You get everybody thanked, and it's all worth it. Everybody comes together and makes this happen. Adam, of course, we got to thank you for putting this whole league together in its first season. It's been so wonderful. Of course, everybody can go back and watch all of those races. We'll let you get off to your celebrations with your teammates. Congratulations again, and everybody will definitely be watching for you out there on the track, my friend.
Thank you guys so much.
So that is Adam Buzzio. He takes victory here. He pulls up to the line, and I kept expecting him to do some burnouts, but there were no burnouts to do because that was the end of his fuel supply, and his two teammates got to celebrate. Alex, this was just an amazing race. If I was a betting man, there's no way that I would bet that there would be 0 contact cautions in this race, and yet Adam Buzzio bet on that, and he bet successfully, and he won. This was a shocker here. What were your thoughts on tonight's race as we close this one out?
I don't know that I would ever gamble on Dover ever not having a caution, but the fact that we didn't and it working out, it seemed like it really worked out for all the top 5 drivers. I was reading some of the after trailer conversations, and everybody was saying, man, that was tight on fuel, and one heck of a show. And Next Level did it with style, finishing 1, 2, and 3. I don't know that we could have had a better show.
Absolutely. What a fantastic show it was, and always so great to be covering this league. It seems like every single race it's something new, something different, and that's of course why you'll want to tune in out there. for our very next race, which is going to be from the Circuit of the Americas. You won't want to miss it. Fantastic road course. We'll finally get to see these drivers turn right and left. And then you can see the rest of the schedule. So much yet to come here. And, of course, the chase will begin eventually. So these drivers fighting to get into that chase. A lot of these drivers still on the bubble and back, and they need to get the points to get in. Tonight, though, it was all about Adam Buzzio, Gavin Rogers, and Stephen Borbell, teammates over at Next Level Motorsports, who sweep the podium. Thanks once again to Buttkicker, Sundance Pizza, Trivista, Idealise, and of course, tonight's race sponsor, the K1 Speed. You can find out more about K1 Speed at k1speed.com. On behalf of my partner, Alex Axman, I'm Trevor Greenfield signing off for tonight. We'll see you again right here on VirtualRacing.Network next week for Circuit of the Americas. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your week, and stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.